This assignment will be adding or subtracting or multiplying complex numbers. So we have the square root of negative 49 is going to be the square root of 49 times the square root of negative 1, which gives you 7i. Square root of negative 144 is the square root of 144 times the square root of negative 1. And we know that the square root of 144 is 12. And we know that the square root of negative 1 is I, so it's 12i. Now, the square root of negative 7, we're not able to find the square root of 7 since it's not a perfect number, but we can simplify this. So square root of negative 1 times the square root of 7 is equal to, this is going to be I, square root of 7. Number 6 is the square root of negative I times the square root of 48. Which is the same thing, and I'm simplifying. The square root of negative 1 is a product, or 48 is a product of 16 times 3. Why is that important? Because 16 is a perfect number. So the square root of 16 is 4i, since I is the square root of 1 times the square root of 3. Square root of 8, or negative 8, is the same thing as saying square root of negative 1 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, and we know that square root of 4 is a perfect number, so it's going to be 2i square root of 2. Square root of negative 10 is the same thing as the square root of negative 10 is equal to the square root of negative 1 to the square root of 10, so it's going to be I times the square root of 10. Number 7, to simplify each expression, so you're going to, these are complex numbers. There's a complex number because it has a real and imaginary. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. And this will be plus 3i plus negative 2i, which is I. And if you want to know where I is in the calculator, you go to the pi. And there is the I. So I've already typed it in for us. So I'm going to go ahead and press enter. I'm going to go back. I'm going to press enter. And there it is, 3 plus I, it does check. Number 8, we're going to simplify again. We have negative 6 plus 6, which is 0. And then we have 7i plus negative 7i, which is 0. So 0 plus 0 is 0. I've typed it into the calculator to check. So what do we have? We have 12. So I did something wrong, unless I typed it in wrong here. Oh yeah, I typed it in wrong. I missed the negative here. So it should be 0. So we have negative 6 plus 7. And I'm going to put 7i there. 7i. And then we have plus 6 plus 7i. And that's going to happen on test. Some of you will type it in wrong. I did it again. It should be minus right here. So negative 6 plus 7i. You have to do it here. Plus 6 minus 7i. There, I typed it in right, so it's 0. Number 9 are the ones that will probably give you mistakes on the test. So we have 4 minus 2i plus 1. You have to distribute the negative. So that's plus 1 minus 3i. So 4 plus 1 gives you 5. Negative 2i plus negative 3i gives you negative 5i. So number 10, we have negative 5 plus 3i. Then you have to distribute the negative. So it's plus 8 minus 2i. So negative 5 plus 8 gives you 3. 3i plus negative 2i gives you I. Number 11, you're going to have to use the FOIL method to multiply. So we have 5 times 5, which is 25. 5 times 3i, which is 15i. Negative 3i times 5 gives you negative 15i. And then 5 plus 3 gives you positive 15i squared. So we have 25 and then 15i minus 15i, that's 0. Minus, since I squared is negative 1, minus 15. So this will be 10. I made a mistake. Negative 3 times negative 3 is not 15i squared. It's actually negative 9i squared. And then let me erase this here. Minus 9a squared, so that's going to be positive 9. So 25 plus 9 gives you 34. negative 1 plus 3i times negative 1 plus 3i. You're going to have to do the FOIL method. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Negative 1 times 3i is negative 3i. 3i times negative 1 is negative 3i. And then 3i times 3i gives you 9i squared. So it's 1 minus 6i, because negative 3i plus negative 3i is negative 6i. And then 9 times negative 1 is negative 9. So 1 minus 9 gives you negative 8 minus 6i. Write the quotient as a complex number. So 4i, you're going to have to multiply by the conjugate, which is negative 4i, negative 4i. So 5 times negative 4i is negative 20i. Negative 4i times 2 is negative 8i squared, divided by 4 times negative 4 is negative 16i squared. So you have negative 20i, negative 8 times negative 1, because that's I squared is equal to negative 1. So it's positive 8. And it's going to be divided by negative 16 times negative 1 is 16. 16. So the real part always comes first. That's 1/2. Negative 20 over 16 is divisible by 4. So it's minus 5i divided by 4. Number 16, we have to divide again. And so we're going to have to multiply by the conjugate, which is negative 2 minus I, negative 2 minus I. So I'm going to apply the distributive property here on the numerator. 3i times negative 2 is negative 6i. 3i times negative I is I squared divided by negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative I times I gives you negative I squared. Remember that the middle is going to cancel. So I squared is negative 1, so that's 1 minus 6i. So we have 4 minus a negative 1, that's positive 1, so that's going to be 1 over 5 and negative 6 over 5. I want to encourage you to check with the calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and take the time to do that so I can show you. So you go to the pi and you do have I, so I'm going to write 3i, and then I have control division. So it's going to be negative 2 plus I. I'm glad I did check because my error is right here. That should be 3 over 5 since I multiplied times 3 minus 6 over 5i. I did check the other answer and it is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and do number 17 and 18. So number 18, I'm going to solve using quadratic formula. It is equal to 0, so A is equal to negative 1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to negative 10. So we have x equals negative 2 plus or minus square root 2 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 10 divided by 2 times negative 1. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus square root. And so we're going to have to figure out the discriminant. So we have 2 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 10. It's negative 36 divided by negative 2. So you have negative 2 plus or minus 6i divided by negative 2. So the answers are 1 plus or minus 3i.